So I know what you're thinking. Why the hell am I taking fashion advice from a guy who wears a black shirt everywhere? It's a fair question, and one I actually will address later in the video. But for now, what I want to tell you is this. I'm not claiming to be a fashion guru. What I am claiming is that I know what works in the real world and I know what women respond to. And I'm going to show you how to dress in a way that will get you results in the real world with women without having to obsess over fashion or spend all of your budget on it. So with that said, let's get you sexy, shall we? So in this video, I'm going to teach you the universal principles of fashion that will always be true. Then I'm going to break down some looks that are trendy right now and explain how they work based on these principles. And finally, I'm going to give you practical steps that you can use to follow these principles and get a better wardrobe very easily and very, very quickly. But before we get into any of that, I want to dispel one myth. Looks do matter. There's this age-old myth that looks don't matter, and the reason why that exists is because in the mainstream, there's this other myth that looks are everything. That if you don't look like a male supermodel, you can't attract women, and that's also nonsense, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But the fact of the matter is, yes, looks do in fact matter. If you walk up to a girl and she responds better to you initially, that's gonna snowball and make every other thing in the interaction better. In fact, if you look bad enough when you walk up and get an immediate rejection, that might just end all of your chances with a girl right there. And even beyond looks affecting how one girl specifically treats you, looks can affect which girls you can meet. They may affect you not being able to be let into certain clubs, or they may affect the girl's friends or parents stopping you from interacting with her. So looks do in fact very much matter. But let me say that with an asterisk. It actually should be not looks matter, it should be your look matters. Because again, we're not talking about your genetic symmetry here, we're talking about the way you've put yourself together. So let's get into actual fashion advice. Fashion tip number one, fit matters. If you're wearing good clothes, but they're just hanging off of you, you look ridiculous. If you don't have a perfect body and you're wearing clothes that are way too tight and show off all your physical imperfections, that's not making you look your best either. So you need to take into account how the clothes you're wearing fit. In general, if you're in good shape, tighter tends to be better as a fit, but it is specific to the look. Certain looks are intentionally baggy. Certain looks are intentionally slim fitting, so you want to be congruent to that. In any case, whatever you're wearing, the way it fits matters. So let's look at some examples to illustrate these points. And with the examples in this video, I want to play a little game with you. Because one of the ideas I'm trying to get across is that fashion has universal principles, and to an extent, they're timeless. To an extent, good fashion is good fashion, and it doesn't go all the way out of style in a lot of cases. So I've actually picked a lot of the examples in this video from just very recently in the last week. However, there are a couple examples that are remnants from a talk I gave on fashion in 2016. And I want you to, as you're going through this video, put in the comments which ones you think might be from 2016 if you have a theory on it. I want to see how accurate you guys actually are. So that's a little game I'll play with you guys during this video. So these first two looks I have on screen are on the surface pretty basic. It's fairly standard clothing items. There's nothing that looks all that special, but you have to admit the guys look good. And here's why. Let's look in more detail. So when you look at this guy in the pink shirt on the bicycle, he's just wearing a collared shirt and pants. However, the collared shirt is slim fitting and it sits right. It falls at a good length. It's not going down halfway down his legs. It's not hugging up on his midsection. It's the right length for what it is. Then he's rolled up the arms. He's done something a little extra stylish here instead of just letting them like hang loose. And he's rolled them up not in like this very utilitarian way. He actually rolled them up in kind of a stylish way that took a little bit of extra effort, shows a little bit of extra class, a little bit of extra style. Next, as you look at his pants, notice they are darker colored jeans rather than blue jeans, which is a little bit extra stylish, a little bit extra edgy. Also notice the fit. They fit slim on him, but they're not like skin tight. They're not hugging so you see every fucking imperfection on his body, okay? They are good fitting jeans. They are well suited to his body. Also, this isn't fashion directly, but notice he's well groomed. His hair looks good, it's styled a little bit, and he does have facial hair, but it's well trimmed facial hair that looks like he did it on purpose. This next one in the white shirt is actually pretty similar, but I like it even better. Again, notice the fit of his shirt is pretty good. It hangs just right. Again, notice the sleeves rolled up, but rolled up in a fashionable way. Now he's taken it a little further and he's actually rolled the cuffs on his pants, which is a very trendy current look and also appropriate to this look with sneakers and the overall appearance of being sort of dressy, sort of casual. Also, he has his buttons unbuttons a fair way down It's a little bit more sexual that way, a little bit more open. It's not buttoned all the way to the top. So again, the way he's wearing his shirt makes a big difference. He also has a few accessories. We'll talk about that later. He has the sunglasses look good. He has a thing on his wrist, and actually the tattoo on his arm in a way is an accessory as well. And then again, he's very well groomed, very good hairstyle, very nicely trimmed facial hair. So what if you don't personally have a great eye for fashion? How can you tell what looks good? Well, I'll give you a few ideas. One that you could do is just check out men's fashion magazines and see what's in them. But that could be impractical or expensive. I'm gonna give you some maybe easier, faster ways to get to the outcome. The best way I've ever found to know what looks good is to look around you. Look at the guys that are doing well with women. In particular, the guys that are your demographic who are doing well with women, and see what they are wearing. So instead of being like, oh, this is approved of by Esquire, instead be like, this is approved of by the women in my city, at my school, at the clubs I go to. That's a much more practical way to go, because it is going to vary by your demographic. It is going to vary by your city. It is going to vary by your age. So again, you want to choose guys who are similar to you, who are doing well with women, and copy what they're doing. That is the fastest, easiest way to have good, effective fashion. And one note on this, it's not just the clothes, also the colors matter. So for example, I look horrible in certain colors because I'm very pale, but other colors like black are safe and good for me. Another thing you can do, in addition to having this catalog in your head of what clothes look good, is go to a high-end store, ideally with that catalog in mind, and try on some of the more expensive clothes. See how they feel, see how they fit, see how they look on you. This doesn't mean you have to buy the expensive clothes. If you really love them and you have the budget, you totally can. But what you're looking to do is figure out what looks good on you and figure out what you're trying to emulate. And then you can go to lower end stores and simulate those looks for much less money. Additionally to this, if it's in your budget, of course, you could hire a stylist. That can be a good step. The other thing you can do is if you see guys who look good, you can flat out go up and ask them where they got their clothes. And no, it's not gay to ask men this. It's totally fine. The goal is mainly to look like you get it and are cool in terms of fashion, but there actually is a little bit of value strictly in looking expensive as well. And this can be done in two ways. One is by actually buying expensive clothes and flaunting brands and that kind of stuff, but that's kind of the expensive, impractical way. The other is by knowing what looks good and buying the less expensive ones that look expensive. And in fact, if you wear a bunch of brands, but you don't wear them right, it can actually convey the wrong message. It can convey that you are, maybe you have money or maybe you overspend on clothes, but that you fundamentally don't get it, that you're lame, that you're very much a provider male, not an alpha male, etc. So be careful with just buying brands because they have a label on them. You want to buy what looks good. Next fashion tip. Unnecessary items and unnecessary layers can often make what would otherwise be boring much more interesting and much more fashionable. I'll give you some examples. Here on the screen, you see a couple examples of where guys are wearing an extra item. In both of these cases, it happens to be a scarf that adds an accent or adds a little something to their look. So in the first case of this guy in the gray jacket, if you were to look at this guy's look without the scarf, there would be nothing wrong with it. He's wearing good fitting jeans, he's wearing decent enough shoes, shirt fits him well, the jacket fits him well, and is fairly nice, but it would kind of fit in. But by adding this scarf underneath, this subtle little accent, he's going from fitting in to looking actually stylish. Like if he was just walking around without the scarf, girls would be like, yeah, he's well dressed, he's fine, whatever. With this scarf, he might actually get girls coming up to him and complimenting him. Or if he showed up on a date, a girl might actually comment on it, on how well dressed he is, because he went that little bit extra. He went a little bit of personality as well as just looking well tailored. In this next case with the leather jacket, it's actually quite interesting because even without the scarf, the guy arguably would already be pretty well dressed. The leather jacket looks pretty good. It's good fitting. It's an edgy look. He has extra items in the sunglasses and the chain that are also edgy. But the scarf here is a little bit different. In this case, the scarf almost softens it, right? It gives him maybe an air of sophistication. So he has the edgy, hard look and then the sophistication with the scarf, which makes it just a little bit more unique, a little bit more stylish. So these are two examples of where it's an extra item that really takes a good look and puts it over the top. By the way, I'm not saying you have to go get a scarf. I'm just saying an extra item or an extra layer can make you look better. And in these examples, it happened to be a scarf I chose to use. Some other examples of extra items you might have. Sometimes Sometimes there's a case where you can wear 2 shirts under a jacket instead of 1, like maybe wear a t-shirt, a collared shirt, and then the jacket, or even a collared shirt, maybe a tight-fitting sweater, and then the jacket, so that extra layer can add a little something. Also things like rings, jewelry, watches, tattoos, necklaces, those kind of extra items can be good accents as well. One thing that's essential to understand about fashion is that good fashion is an honest signal to women. It tells them reliably that you get it. Therefore, good fashion cannot be accidental, right? That's why these impractical, pointless items have a better chance of being fashionable than something that's entirely practical. For example, you won't see like work clothes become fashionable. And now I know there's some hipster out there who's wearing some work clothes ironically and is like, ha ha ha, you're wrong, Todd. But in general, you get my point. If it's practical, comfortable, like work related, it's not gonna be fashionable. If it is a little bit silly, a little bit extra, a little bit pointless, that has a much better chance of being fashionable because that means you actually did it on purpose. You didn't do it by accident. Now, I know a lot of you right now are thinking, Todd, I don't want to think about it this much. Just give me something simple and basic that I can wear. I don't want to think about extra items and how to add flair to my wardrobe. Okay, so right now I'm going to give you the most simple, practical thing you can wear just about anywhere and have it always work. Here you go. So on screen right now, you see a guy wearing a black t-shirt. You knew I was going to get to that eventually. Why do I choose this? And why do I personally wear a black t-shirt? Well, it's because I travel to a lot of different cities. I go to a lot of different clubs. I need something that kind of works everywhere. I can't be specific to everywhere I'm going when I'm living out of a suitcase. And a good fitting black t-shirt, good fitting black jeans, and good fitting black shoes basically will never be a bad choice. Also, as an aside, oftentimes when I'm going out, I'm teaching boot camps. So I'm trying to look good without standing out a ton. So this black outfit also works very well in that regard. However, if you want something basic that will work, will be timeless, get some good high quality black jeans, or dark jeans at least, good fitting t-shirts, ideally stylish, but good fitting t-shirt, and some nice black shoes. It's timeless, it's classic, it works everywhere. As long as we're talking about classic colors that work fairly universally, white is actually a good one as well. Although if you're super pale, you might not want to wear all white. You might need white with a dark color, but white is pretty classic, it kind of fits in everywhere. And the other beautiful thing about white is it is an honest signal. If you're wearing white and it still looks white as opposed to dingy or faded or stained or something like that, it's an honest signal that your clothes either are new or are well taken care of, which shows that you get it in terms of fashion. Like looking at this guy on screen, the fact that his shoes are bright white makes him look tremendously better, and that's a huge fashion hack. Clean white shoes are a very good, elegant thing to wear, especially during the daytime. Also, speaking of white, looking good, being clean, remember this guy? That's another part of why he looks good as well. So I mentioned briefly your clothes looking new or looking good, and that's another great style hack is buy new clothes periodic, right? Clothes that are actually new tend to look better. Also, clothes that are actually new will tend to be up with the trend. And again, you can do this in a very expensive way, but you don't have to buy expensive clothes. You can buy the expensive looking clothes for less. And speaking of buying expensive clothes for less, this guy on screen right now looks pretty good. Why? Well, his clothes fit well. We have black, which works kind of on everybody. It's a stylish cut and a stylish look to the jacket. He has a nice accent with the watch, and he has a really good haircut. But all of these clothes are inexpensive. How do I know that? It's because literally everything he's wearing is from Zara. This is a Zara ad. And so we know that none of this is super designer. None of this cost a ton. Some of it might cost a little bit, like Zara jackets are not like dirt cheap, but it didn't cost a ton. One other point I do want to make for you in this video, because a lot of what I've shown you is jeans or dress pants, collared shirts, that kind of stuff. There are more casual looks that are good. Athleisure is a very popular look these days, especially when you're out in the daytime. So taking a look at this guy right here, he looks pretty good, but he's also comfortable. He's wearing fairly athletic stuff. And little hint, this is one that actually is from 2016, but even so, even today, he still looks good. Okay, so I've given you a lot of tips and principles, but how about another lazy man's shortcut? Here's a good one. Go into a store, look at the mannequin. If you see a mannequin wearing stuff that you like, that you think would suit you, buy the whole mannequin. Not literally the physical plastic mannequin. Buy all the clothes that are on the mannequin and put them together, because a professional stylist has put that together, been paid a lot of money to put that together. So it's likely to go well together and all look good together. So one other concept I want to talk about briefly, because I like the principle, but I have some tweaks on it. It's the idea of what they call a capsule wardrobe. And the idea here is that you have a few staple items that work everywhere, which is very much in alignment with what I'm suggesting. And it is is the philosophy of fashion that I would go with. However, I would caution you, if you go online and just look up like capsule wardrobe, they may not be designing it to be edgy and successful with women. They may just be designing it to look good at work or to look generally fashionable. So I would say it's a good principle, but keep in mind the idea of looking at the guys who are actually doing well with women and who are your demographic and copying them, and then make those the staple items for your capsule wardrobe, not what some generic person online tells you. So that's a lot of information. Let me give you a quick summary. Number one, make sure your clothes fit right and you're wearing them right. Number two, make sure you're well groomed. Number three, have a catalog in your head of guys similar to you who are succeeding with women and copy essentially what they're doing. Number four, look at expensive ideas and copy them for cheap. Number five, ask people who know better than you do, or flat out just copy the mannequin. To end this video, I want to ask you a question. What if every single time you walk up to a girl, you get a 25% better reaction? How much would that be worth to you? Yeah, that's why fashion matters. Take this seriously, go do it, make the most of your look. It will make a huge difference.